Welcome, I'm Nina Gryphon, and this is the Astrology and Magic channel. Today we'll talk about the astrology of week 2 of July 2025, which covers July 6th through the 12th. First off, I'd like to say thank you to all of my patrons. I appreciate all of your support. If you would like to become a patron and you would like to get access to my monthly Magical Elections ebook, which teaches you how and when to make astrological talismans, please go to patreon.com/Nina Gryphon. At the highest tier, you will get access to monthly magical elections, and you will also get early access to these astrological forecasts. July 6th, Venus at 1 Gemini will sextile Saturn and Neptune in Aries and trine Pluto in Aquarius. Venus is now triggering the configuration between Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto. We now see some of the early signs of the configuration between the outer planets, Saturn, and some of the time Jupiter that will take place over the next few years. The puzzle pieces are now beginning to fall into place. This is a harmonious combination, especially with Venus involved, so we may be seeing the beginnings of big agreements, realignments among the largest and most powerful movers and shakers in our world, whether it's at the level of countries, businesses, or other major forces that shape our world. On the personal level, these powers are moving into alignment that will hold us in its grasp over the next few years, as the slowest planets combine to aspect degrees in the early fire and air signs. While these configurations will directly impact those with planets or key points in early fire and air, we will all feel the effects because they will create such notable realignments across the world, and indeed across the worlds, plural. Remember, as above, so below. So we can think of these as changes in the cosmos that are making their way down through the planetary spheres to us here on Earth at last. July 7th, Uranus enters Gemini. This is the big change, the one we've all been waiting for. As you know, Uranus returns to the same sign every 84 years, spending approximately 7 years in each sign. Uranus will exit Gemini for good in 2033. The last time that Uranus entered Gemini was August 1941, and then left for good in 1949. The time prior to that, Uranus entered Gemini in 1858 and left in 1866. And before that, Uranus entered Gemini in 1774 and left in 1782. Since these periods correspond to American involvement in World War II, the Civil War, and the Revolutionary War respectively, if your American friends seem a bit nervous and edgy, this is why. Especially in the last 100 or so years, if the US is doing something, the whole world is impacted, and I would expect that to be the case this time as well. We expect there to be a big shift this year, as is always noticeable when Uranus changes signs. But the process of change may well take the full 7 years while Uranus transits Gemini. So changes impacting the United States are certainly coming, and more generally, we can expect major advances and disruptions in technology, communication, and other mercurial areas. The one facet of Gemini that most modern commentators miss is its importance to human relationships and social structures. The air signs, also known as the human signs, all align to human society and social structures specifically. So we can assume that political and social institutions will be transformed and perhaps advanced in some way. The UN was established in 1945, for example, though it was largely paralyzed starting in 1947 due to the Soviet Union veto until 1989. Institutions founded during Uranus in Gemini aren't always functional unless Uranus is in Gemini. Another example is the Confederate Republic formed by the slave states in the US, which existed briefly, 1861 to 1865. People tend to experiment with new forms of government now, although these experiments do not always bear fruit in the long term. Now, enough about the mundane implications of Uranus in Gemini. What about the personal impact of this transit? As you may know, on a personal level, I tend to view outer planet transits as background energies to the visible planets' transits. The house that Gemini governs in your chart will be impacted most of all, of course, but remember that this is all part of a larger configuration involving Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, and next year, Jupiter in Leo, so focusing just on the transit of Uranus is to miss the bigger picture. All these planets will be transformational, and their changes will be timed more precisely by the aspects to the natal chart made by Jupiter and Saturn, as well as the faster planets. July 8th, Jupiter has his morning rise at 6 Cancer. Jupiter has been under the Sun's beams for the past month, since entering Cancer. He now finally emerges from the beams like a debutante making her grand entrance. Now, until the last week of June, Jupiter is still an orb of his separating square to Saturn, so Jupiter is not completely free of afflictions, but emerging from the beams of the Sun is certainly a major improvement in Jupiter's condition. You may know that this is known as phases in Greek, which translates to an appearance, and is a moment of tremendous potency for a planet, which is doubly true now because Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. It is beneficial to be like Jupiter at this time, to take on jovial roles in social situations or work situations, because even though you will not be free of all problems, as symbolized by the Saturn square, you will be able to command a certain elevated tone. July 10th, we have our full moon at 18 Capricorn. This full moon is ruled by Saturn in Aries, so the themes of restrictions, limitations, and exclusion will be paramount. Jupiter also conjoins the Sun squaring Saturn, creating a potent dialectic between the themes of freedom and imprisonment, wealth and poverty, increase and decrease. The moon also trines Mars in Virgo on the South Node, which is a very hot combination indeed. Make no mistake though, Saturn is still dominant, as he is in an overcoming square to Jupiter, so Saturnian themes and feelings will be the most powerful and noticeable. Note that Saturn is stationary now as he prepares to turn retrograde, suggesting that Saturnian matters like boundaries, but also Saturnian people and establishments that have become so rigid and ossified that they have become brittle and impossible to defend, may now be crumbling. Starting around this full moon, Mars begins to draw with an orb of the conjunction with the South Node, which will last the rest of the month. Mars with the South Node is extremely hot and violent in Vedic astrology, since the South Node itself is like an ultra-hot Mars, suggesting violence and also extremely hot weather. In locations where this Mars-South Node conjunction is angular, we can expect it to be especially hot and possibly violent in these areas. Here is a map showing the locations where the conjunction is on an angle, including the eastern seaboard of the United States and Hawaii, as well as western Ukraine, just to name a few spots. July 12th, Saturn turns retrograde at 1 Aries. Saturn spends 5 days stationary before turning retrograde, so we may already have been experiencing his retrograde motion as delays or extensions of a process that we might normally expect to be faster. He will slowly move backwards through Aries until he re-enters Pisces September 1st, and then goes direct November 28th at 25 Pisces. His last passage through Pisces could be tough for the world asset markets, so we have that to look forward to in fall and early winter, perhaps a buying opportunity if we are thinking long-term. Matters ruled by Saturn are challenged now, whether we are looking at imprisonment, poverty, or other current issues. These concerns may become less insistent and less dominant in our awareness and in the larger social discourse. Thanks for watching. I'm Nina Gryphon, and this is the Astrology and Magic channel.